No worries. I'm glad to be
Welcome
here.
welcome everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. This event is hosted by Research on Interdisciplinary Studies, or short RIGS, here at Montclair State University. And as many of you know, RIGS is a hub for innovative research and cross-disciplinary collaboration dedicated to addressing some of the most pressing global challenges of our times. And our work really spans a range of critical themes that are each designed to foster a deeper understanding and real-world solutions. And some of the key areas that we currently focus on are human rights and social justice, where we really explore issues related to equity, inclusion, the fight against systemic oppression on a global scale. We also work on sustainable development issues, which examines the balance between economic growth, environmental issues, and social equity. This can and also includes research on climate change, research management, as well as the transition towards green economies. Other topics include migration and global displacement, a hot button topic these days, whether that is here in the US or in Europe elsewhere. We also, and this is where we come in with our AI and governance frame here, work on digital and technological transformations, where we critically assess the impact of AI, digital tools, as well as technology on governance, diplomacy, and social movements. And last but not least, we work also on peace and conflict resolution. And through these themes, RIDS is really trying to push the boundaries of transitional academic discourse, promoting collaboration between scholars, practitioners, and activists. And we really believe that by connecting these different disciplines and viewpoints, we can better address the global challenges that lie ahead of us and provide meaningful and actionable insights. So thanks for joining us today. Our talk today, Masters or Servants, the Struggle to Govern AI, is presented by Jimena Viveros, a renowned international lawyer and UN advisor on AI governance, who will explore ethical, legal, and global implications of AI for peace and security. Thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to an engaging discussion on the future of AI governance in a rapidly evolving global landscape. And I will now hand it over to my colleague and RICS fellow, Alfredo Toro Carnevale, who will introduce our speaker and lead and moderate this lovely discussion.
All right. Thank you, Arnold. Thank you very much. Thank you to Riggs for this opportunity. My name is Alfredo Toro Carnevale. I'm a professor at the Department of Political Science and Law at Montclair, and I will be moderating our conversation with our esteemed and honored guest, Jimena Viveros, who's joining us today. As you have read in the introduction to this event today, Jimena is a renowned international lawyer. She was part of the high-level advisory body convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations to study the impact of artificial intelligence in society. She's a CEO of Equilibrium. She's a founder of Humane AI, and among many other things, she's very busy. She's traveling every day. She's in a different country. So we're very lucky to have her today. Jimena, welcome to Montclair State University. Thank you for being here with us. I have a lot of questions for you, but I want to give you the chance to introduce yourself and tell us whatever you want to tell us about AI and governance. So thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction and previously for the invitation here. It is an honor to be at such a prestigious institution with such renownedly famous scholars as yourself, shaping the minds of young people. So I'm not going to waste anyone's time introducing myself any further. I think we can go into the conversation straight away to make the most of everyone's time. What do you think?
Excellent, excellent. Sounds good. So I'm gonna ask you a set of questions, and we'll get the conversation going. We'll make sure to leave some time for everyone who's attending the meeting to ask some questions as well. So one of the things we're most interested in, you were part of this high advisory body convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations on artificial intelligence. Now, that report, which came out, I believe, a couple of years ago, it identified a range of benefits and risks associated with artificial intelligence. So, we would like to hear from your perspective. Um, what are some of those benefits that we can that AI can offer to society? And at the same time, what are the gravest threats? And which sectors of the population are most vulnerable to them?
So thank you. It does feel like the report came out a couple of years ago, but it only came out last September.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
right before the Summit of the Future.
Oh,
So
okay.
the 19th of September, to be precise. We launched it in New York. So, but so much has happened since. So yeah, I feel like that's been a while. Um, so the Secretary General indeed convened this body in October of the year prior in order to be in a better position, not himself only, but the entire General Assembly and his secretariat in order to give member states also the possibility to have some independent body of experts from all types of disciplines, backgrounds, regions, in order to advise better policy making at the UN General Assembly. That's why we presented it right before in New York in the context of, again, the Summit of the Future. So basically, we came up with 7 recommendations, which range from everything, as you mentioned, balancing the biggest risks, which in my opinion is the point where we must focus the most, and at the same time reaping the benefits that this technology has, because obviously the benefits are enormous if we seize them right, and equally, because and the problem that we're facing now, especially in this political socio landscape, is that we're facing a lot of these new patterns that are resemblant of old patterns, such as the new techno colonization or these technocracies and all of these things that are happening at the expense of the global south and of the most vulnerable populations. So in my opinion, the gravest risks are always within the peace and security domains. As we've seen, in the war in Gaza and Ukraine, and there are many other conflicts where these technologies are being used. And it's just disproportionate because it's completely asymmetrical and there's no capacity response. So the casualties and the suffering of civilians is completely unjustified. And it's only because of the technology that is available. So that is one thing. But the other big risk in terms of peace and security is the fact that when it is available, it can be a lot cheaper and it could be a lot more scalable and let's say easier to use by malicious actors than other type of weapons that is more difficult to conceal. And this is not only talking about, say, weapons of mass destruction, but any type of drone can carry out a lot of damage if equipped with different types of armaments. But also a swarm of drones in itself can also become a weapon of mass destruction per the definitions, of the large scale and unfiltered attacks that they can carry out. So this is a problem. Also, the decision support systems that can be incorporated into basically everything, especially when it comes to targeting and decisions of use of force and stuff like that. It's extremely dangerous. So, and again, its availability to malicious actors, because I feel like the discourse is right now just being shaped around what state actors are doing, whereas non-state actors are also very relevant, especially in different types of contexts. For example, Latin America, we have organized crime who are using these technologies, and sometimes they even have more technological capabilities than the state, even, you know, the armed forces. So this is a problem. If we try to mitigate all of these risks, and we do that through global governance, which is the only way to achieve this, then we can already start talking about benefits. That's the order that I think the conversation should happen. And then the benefits of this is we can interconnect so much more. We can stop reinventing the wheel. You know, we can actually harness technology and innovation in order to solve everything from day-to-day problems to humanity's greatest challenges, you know, like, for example, global warming or other type of things, in order to finally achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, all 17 of them, by 2030 and then beyond. So this technology is completely revolutionizing everything. So we are right now at the inflection to decide how we want to shape that. If we want to actually live in a world where we can reap the benefits, or are we going to live in a world where we are just experiencing the damages created by the risks? And that's what global governance is trying to balance. So hopefully we can come with a positive result with the engagement of all type of communities, raising our voices and trying to shape the discourse in the right direction.
All right, thank you, Jimena. So I mean, you pointed out that there are serious risks associated with AI. You mentioned obviously the asymmetry in the capacity of development of the technology, with richer, more developed countries having an advantage over the global South, countries less developed. You talked also about the possibility of non-state actors, terrorist criminal organizations, getting a hold of this technology and employing it for perverse means. Now, you pointed very interestingly that we can only start to see the benefits once we have been able to mitigate the risks, right, or the disadvantages that come with AI. So, on that note, obviously, in able to mitigate it, we have to establish norms, right? We need governance. So I know that we've come up with this report that you worked on by the Secretary General of the United Nations. However, what we do see is that both at the UN level, right, and even individual states are facing important obstacles when it comes to creating norms around the management of artificial intelligence. So, can you give us some insight as to how difficult is it to actually reach any kind of consensus around the governance of artificial intelligence, and what are some of the points of contention among UN member states when it comes to trying to come up with common norms on how to manage artificial intelligence?
So the challenges that we face in the global governance of AI are the same ones that we face at the international level on every type of subject. So the UN is, I still think very firmly, it's the best option. It's the only option really that we have, like an inclusive body with the most representativeness at this stage, with 193 states unfortunately not 194, but it's the best we have. So that's why the Secretary General is trying to like harness the work that has been doing all of the different agencies and other type of bodies, and convene it all for the specific purpose that the fact that we have multiplicity of different initiatives, it just leads to fragmentation. And that's what global governance tries to address, right? We're looking at a patchwork of initiatives that are happening even at the international level, but also regionally and especially nationally. And that can be very, it doesn't really give a lot of certainty not to users, to markets, to citizens in general, because as we've seen, they can change, especially nationally, they can change from one day to the other, right? With just one signature. So how we need actual binding commitments that happen at the global level where everyone is involved and everyone can be accountable. That's why binding commitments are super important in this whole design. However, international law as it stands right now, it's blatantly violated by everyone. And that's just the situation that we're in right now, unfortunately. And they're doing it with complete impunity. So this is something that it's been normalized over the past years. However, it really shouldn't be. And that's why I still call for everyone to raise your voice and to try to address these issues from every single issue that is ranging at the international sphere. And AI should not be outside of the scope. Another thing that we're seeing right now is the shift, and this is another challenge. So before, with any type of other technology or disruptive technology or weaponry or anything of the sort, it's always been concentrated by states, or it can be traced by states in a much easier way because they're physical, they're visible, and you can have more control on how to keep it safeguarded within a space or in an industry or a sector. Whereas AI being dual use, general purpose, all of this, and completely transboundary, it really does not obey regional laws or national laws. So the only way to regulate it in the is by doing a level, by having buy-in of everyone. And that is very, especially again, and now the added problem is the fact that industry has even more power than most, and also that is activated in a few states. So that's why from the outset, we're all kind of playing a game. And I mean, let's say the global majority, because obviously it's the global south, but at this point it's south that is playing this unfair game of development, which is kind of like an arms race of AI in general, not only talking about what the pace of the acceleration of this technology's development in an unsafe and unregulated something that we should all really be so those are just very few challenges of the many that we're facing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jimena. I want to sort of emphasize or like kind of double down on this issue that there's growing concern that given the fast pace of the sort of the evolution of AI, it seems that it may not be the only reason, but as you said, it seems that the regulation of AI has fallen into the hands of big private corporations, right? So Google, Microsoft, and so on, and there's no democratic oversight over their agreements? And can we really rely on those AI, large private corporations to, you know, design the norms that govern artificial intelligence? There are obvious reasons why that should not happen. Can we avoid it?
We really should try to avoid it by having countering measures to this, counterbalances, because it's not regulation when it's self-regulation. When you're setting the rules for your own game, that doesn't really sound fair to anyone, right? Especially when everyone is forced to play. It's not something that is optional. As we can see, they're changing their internal policies on what they exclude, or the use cases that they originally said they wouldn't be doing, like military applications, surveillance purposes, all of these things. And then suddenly they change their minds, and unilaterally they can change their minds, and we all need to conform. And this obviously it follows, on the one hand, corporate interests, so it's money at the end of the day, and also trying to get favor some jurisdiction or another, depending on who is in charge, which again shouldn't be the case, because governance should be done for the global good, right? Not for the interest of a few. As is being the case. And a few, again, it's corporations, it's governments, and it's very few corporations and very few governments that are calling the shots. And that's why we always try to, but the thing is, you cannot really escape having industry now in the shift of dynamics that I was mentioning earlier, and which comes with a lot of problems. So what we have come up with is trying to always have a multi-stakeholder approach to things. Also because we don't necessarily know or have visibility into what the state of the art of these technologies are, because again, they just have their corporate secrets and their corporate veils and their corporate everything. So you need to have their cooperation in order to even know what's coming, because otherwise you're going to spend so much time trying to come up with rules and procedures and everything for a technology that is already outdated by the moment that you're printing it. So that doesn't necessarily help the system either. So it's a complicated landscape, as you can see, but it's not something that we just say, okay, well, we surrender and then let's just let everyone else do whatever they want, because then we're going to be in a very perilous situation.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we we saw this and I know you were in the artificial intelligence summit recently in Paris, right? Just last week. And it sort of coincided with the revelation of this paper by this Chinese startup, right? DeepSeek, which seemed to be able to uh, um, create a very sophisticated artificial intelligence without this massive investments in specialized chips and energy intensive data centers and all of that. So I wonder whether that makes governance of artificial intelligence, supposing that it's true, um, that you can actually harness artificial intelligence without those multi-billion-dollar investments. Does that make it easier or harder to govern over AI?
It changes the narrative, that's for sure. That's what we've had. So before, everyone was very amenable and excited about open source models, such as DeepSeek, such as OpenAI, all of this type of open source. However, DeepSeek came along, and then everyone's like, oh, no, 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 no. Open source models are not good. They cannot be trusted. Anyone can make them. So the exact same arguments that were done pro are now are being made against just because of who made the technology, right? It's not necessarily about how much was invested in it or not. It's just who does it.
Right.
And that in itself is the disruptive factor, which shouldn't really be the case, because technology should be neutral always. The problem is how the whole narrative is being concentrated. And yes, in Paris, I was surprised because, well, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but I just couldn't believe that in such a meeting, we have all the brilliant minds all around the world, and everyone is just trying to vaticinate what one or two world leaders are going to be doing. And, also leaders that are not actively even participating in any of this. So this really just leaves you with this feeling of the whole narrative is really not the right one. And if you think even of like the global South, it's kind of deontologically there, but it's really not within the priorities of like actionable things that are coming. Even the declaration that came out, it said, the declaration for the development and the sustainability of peoples and the planet. But where are we in all of this? That's what we really need to be asking ourselves, what the differentiated impact of the technology is going to have on us. And that's what you need to regulate. That's what you need to have at the core of global governance. It's not just about harnessing innovation constraining innovation, which is the narrative again of corporations. The point is, we do have a different impact of how these technologies affect us. That's just a fact. So we need to consider all of the millions, if billions of humans that are going to have a very unfair change of lifestyle, and of the way that resources are being allocated around them. And how the environment is going to continue to change, the depletion of the resources like water and stuff like that to maintain all of this data centers and so on, without being consulted, without participating, without even being in a list of those potentially, not even now, not even tomorrow, not even like in a million years, able to actually reap or see any type of benefits from this technology. We're just being left behind, which is counter to what the Secretary General is always professing. And he's always striving towards this, which is leave no one behind. However, the tendency of states back is not very aligned with this notion. So that's the struggle that we see right now.
Thank you, Jimena. That's, I mean, it's it's complicated, right? And you're right. It's not unlike other phenomena that we have seen before, especially when it comes to states and technology. Now we have an added factor, which is the role of corporations, which makes it an even harder challenge to manage. I want to pivot to something that I know this is your area of expertise and focus, which is autonomous weapon systems. So I'd be happy to explain what it is, but I'd rather leave it to you. I think that people have a sense of what it means to have a weapon that operates on artificial intelligence. But just exactly what are they? This weapon systems that are operated with artificial intelligence, and the risk associated with their development.
Yes, so for a long time, people have thought of autonomous weapons as this killer robots, or this Terminator type of thing, and they say no, that's science fiction. It's never going to happen. so, I mean, robotics aside, it's really not something of the dystopian future as we've seen. So autonomous weapon systems are basically any type of weapon that can select and apply force to targets without any human intervention. Obviously, this definition is not necessarily agreed upon by states. There is an entire other problem in regards of global governance of this application of the technology in itself, which kind of obeys the same dynamics as always. It's within the group of governmental experts within the Convention of Conventional Weapons at the UN, which I think it's ironic because these are the least conventional weapons of them all, but that's where these discussions are being held. And then REAIM was created in the Global Commission for the Responsible Use of AI in the Military Domain. I'm a commissioner there as well. And we're trying to also come up with principles, but yeah, so the definition changes and there's not a lot of agreement. Not only to like, what does it mean to select a target? What does it mean to apply the force to a target? What does it mean no human intervention? Before last year, actually, at the last GG meeting, it was understood as there was no meaningful human control. But then Gaza came along, where the AI DSS, which is the decision support systems, came into real light. But they have been being used for many years now, but they really just came to light with these programs that you've all probably heard of, Lavender, Gospel, and Where's Daddy? So then everyone started to pay attention, and then the terminology changed, and now it's a meaningful human judgment. Because
It's what, I'm sorry?
The meaningful human judgment instead of meaningful human control. Because what this ADSS do basically is, or what we saw in Gaza, so there's these three systems. So one basically identifies objects, places, right? That's Gospel. And then the other one, Lavender, it selects people. So by any mean, you know, it just goes into like intercepted communications, for example, like WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups or whatever. And if it just makes the connections, we don't know because of AI and the black box and all of these things, and like how there's no explainability on how it comes to a determination of why they say a person is a target. And then there was the third system that kind of like crosses the two. This is the one that's called Where's Daddy, perversely, because most of the locations where they placed the target were residential homes. So that's when they decided to strike. So then they say, okay, so then there's always an operator that pushes the button and says, okay, now shoot. But the thing is, especially when you have like loitering munitions and this type of capabilities within drones and other types of systems, it becomes extremely more problematic, especially because, say, before the war, the Gaza war, they used these systems already, but they used it allegedly for, I don't know, 10 targets every month. It's still not okay. But then by, I don't know, 6 months into the war, this rose exponentially, right? So they were selecting 300 targets or so per day. So if you have a person trying to decide over 300 targets, just simultaneously, you know, where is the human judgment of this? Yes, so the human is in control of pressing the button. But does that actually mean that they're actually going to like look at the information and make an informed decision to decide whether a person should be killed or not? It's just not feasible, you know? And then when you scale this, right, as it is shown that's where these things go. The point of this is to accelerate the decision-making process so that people don't spend a lot of time researching or doing intelligence and, you know, chasing subjects or targets. That's the whole point. It's to accelerate things. So when you're accelerating, you are thinking less, you're analyzing less. So there's a lot more casualties that shouldn't be there. There's a lot more innocent victims that are being selected because of thoughtlessness, literal thoughtlessness. So that's why they changed the term to judgment. However, again, these systems are still being used completely with impunity, and still being developed and further refined and adopted by different armed forces. So this is what we have.
Yeah. It I was surprised by what you said. I was not aware of how widely used it had been in the recent war. Now we know, yeah, as you described, right? There's just cognitively no human being can keep up with that amount of information and actually analyze it. Decisions are being made in a matter of seconds, right? Now, and as an international lawyer, right? Um, who so regardless of whether, let's say, maybe the target was in itself illegal, right? But there could also be mistakes, right? So it could be a programming flaw, it could be an unforeseen scenario, adversarial AI attack. Um, Things can go wrong. And even when they do not, but who is held accountable for these attacks? Is it the person that, as you said, pressed the button? Is it the developer of the AI? Is it the system itself? Is it who can we blame for this? Because if uh, war crimes are being committed using artificial intelligence, who can we punish?
That's where things even get trickier or better, depending on who you are talking to. Because there's atomization and fragmentation of responsibility, because everyone just kind of like tosses the hot potato and says, oh, no, 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 but I was told that the system is perfect. That would be the general. Oh, no, 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 but this is how I was trained to use it, says the soldier. Oh, no, 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 but I trained the system very well. It's your problem. That would be the developer. So in my opinion, everyone should be responsible for the part that corresponds to them, because the developers know exactly very well what they're doing, right? And they should know which guardrails to put in order to prevent some things. But at the same time, the developers on their own, or a country on their own, cannot delimit what should be these guardrails. That's what global governance is trying to do, right? So we first need to define what are the parameters of agreed upon kind of like acceptability of these uses. Obviously, anything that complies with any type of ADSS, that removes the human judgment and control of the equation should be out. But we also need to be, in a way, realistic in knowing that these technologies are there and they will be used. So the thing is, how do we use them? The Secretary General and the ICRC launched a call for regulation to ban autonomous weapons, call for action by 2026. Hopefully we can do that. So I encourage all of you to join this call. But the point, so those are like the fully autonomous ones, but everything in between, we really need to be very careful about this, because again, this might not just be like an input type of problem. So the developer can train and fine tune and refine tune, but the AI keeps going. Machine learning, deep learning, all of this. So then from point A to point B, there might be a complete mismatch. And then that serves very well if you're trying to just come up with, an excuse when you're the operator and something goes wrong. You say, oh, no, no, no. But then it was the system that malfunctioned. And the thing is, like, in most cases, there's really no way to determine what actually went wrong. Because again, the black box and the unexplainability and the brittleness and the hallucinations and the misalignments and all of these things that can happen. So we should really be focusing right now on developing explainable AI, right? And try to do this forensics on how the systems come up with the decisions that they're coming up with. So this is like an entire new branch that's moving, and that I think is extremely important at this stage, precisely because of this. But the problem in itself, when you're talking about accountability and who's responsible, is that you're talking already after the fact, right? So the damage has already been done. So ideally, we don't want the damage to be done in the first place, right? So that's what preventive approaches and preventive regulation or preventive governance and all of these guardrails to be put in place, before the fact, are extremely important. Because once you have killed a person, I mean, yes, it's important to be held accountable, but you cannot bring the person back, or millions of people back, or thousands of people back. So that's the tricky part when you're talking about peace and security. That's why I say it's the most fragile aspect of AI that we should all be talking about, but no one really wants to talk about this. So that kind of feeds into the urgency of this topic being on the table and everyone actually being concerned, because you're not exempt.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Jimena. I'm gonna open the floor for questions. And I'm gonna ask Arnaud to give me a hand here. If you if you
Of
will.
course. Of
I
course.
see that in case, I mean, I'll go through the question.
Yeah.
But if I miss anything or there's something in there, then please let me know. We have a question, and it says, so does artificial intelligence make human rationality obsolete? And I assume that Professor David Axelrod is referring to the use of autonomous weapon systems, if that's the case. But does it make human rationality obsolete if these weapons are doing all the work in ways that are not even explainable?
But in a bad way. So that's the brain fatigue, or the brain numbing, that people are just going through the notions. I mean, you can see that not only in weapons, but if your phone says something to you, you are going to believe it. The first thing you Google, that's your entire truth most of the time, right? Just like the first lines of whatever Google tells you, which is really, we've stopped doing this intellectual exercises because we get more and more complacent with how technology avails things in an easiest, fastest way, especially because we're moving at such an accelerated pace in our daily lives. But there are things where, if your phone, for example, doesn't recognize your face, you get upset, right? But what happens when your phone, or I mean, like an AI system, just misidentifies your face with a target and then decides to shoot you? That's like a whole different sphere of things. So, and just because someone was not necessarily, didn't have the time or the will, or the system is programmed for you don't have the time or the will to actually put some thought into all of these processes. So this is a problem that is going to affect every type of industry, because no one is really checking what's going on and the implications of each decision that the AI is making, because it's making so many at the same time. So it's an exacerbation of a problem. So we really need to decide which decisions should be made by AI and which ones we should retain, and actually hold ourselves accountable to retain those decisions, not just to let ourselves go with the flow of automation bias, right? Because that's what it's called. So that's something that we need to be very conscientious of in every aspect. not just in the targeting cycles.
So there,
Jimena,
yeah, go ahead.
If I might jump in here quickly, because you've talked about multi-stakeholder approaches, right? And this idea of preventative perspectives that we need in terms of AI. And since you've been in the back channels and the hallways of the UN, Paris, so you see how sort of behind the scenes these things are developing. And I want to use a similar example, because the EU is oftentimes, with its precautionary principle, sort of the guardrail itself in terms of new technology, right? But when you know, for instance, that with genetically modified organisms, when they were a big thing in the mid 90s, late 90s, and it came out that the EU, with its precautionary principle, was less trying to protect consumers, but trying to play catch up with scientists from North America. And we've seen similar trends right now in terms of the EU trying to build the fortress EU in terms of, we don't want any other AI folks in there, we want our own AI to develop. So how can you sort of square the circle here in terms of governance? Can you tell us a bit more what your feeling is, and tell us a bit, where are we developing? Is then the AI governance much more developed in the corporate field, or much more in the autonomous weaponization, or where do you see sort of the silver lining?
Silver linings. Well, again, this is a problem of patchworks, right? The regionalization of legislation that doesn't really go hand in hand with the reality of these technologies. So that just leads to forum shopping. So companies are just saying, well, listen, if you have laws, I'm not gonna be there. And that's not how it should be. Then again, you're leaving it up to corporations and to opt out of a jurisdiction. That's not how the legal order works, right? It's there to govern everyone equally, for the benefit of everyone equally. So the silver lining here would be there are multiple attempts going on at the global level. We have the Global Digital Compact that came out from the Summit of Future last year, the Pact for Future Generations, and all of these things, the new Agenda for Peace, for example. Plus, again, the statement that came out of Paris, and all of the commitments that are going on. So if I had to choose a silver lining, I would say the fact that we are getting more mobilized as society, because information is getting more availed, and we are understanding better the risks, the implications of the technology. So when you're talking about multi-stakeholder approaches, this also includes civil society, this also includes academia. So the point is to raise our hands all together from wherever we are and join this dialogue in order to keep things as we want our future to look like. Not just be an observer and let those few decide for us. That's the whole point of having this multi-stakeholder approaches.
Can I follow up on that question, because we have a couple questions from our students, more or less in the same line, and it is basically, as students, right? And how can you get involved in this, and the sort of, if you're concerned about the weaponization of AI, if you're concerned about where AI is going, as students, what can you do to be more involved? Where can you go to be involved? Is there? I think you mentioned a couple organizations, but is there anywhere that you would recommend, if you're interested, go here?
Well, obviously, I would recommend to get in touch with me,
Okay.
and yes, and then I can channel your concerns in the best direction. But I think obviously the most intuitive path would be to start locally, and then go with your legislators, go try to push your elected representatives to do something for you, and then, you know, within the national spectrum, because again, you know, they kind of like put forward positions as countries, because that's just how the system works. However, there are also a bunch of organizations, depending on where you are, you can do that. But the magic of things right now is you can do everything from wherever and be in touch and just be vocal from wherever you are, and to try to, and that way you can also reach a wider audience. So a lot of civil society is doing fantastic work. A lot of academia is doing fantastic work in terms of like advocacy and outreach. So yeah, please, I mean, if you're interested in this, get in touch, and I would be happy to see how we can, you know, amplify all types of voices.
Thank you. Thank you. That would be, I think that would be great. Or no, do you have another question that you want to jump in?
Yeah, maybe in terms of sort of the balancing between innovation and regulation, right? And I think you guys talked about the DeepSeek issue that came out, to what extent it's possible. So what sort of tightrope line do we have to walk here? Because, right, you mentioned earlier, and this might be sort of a secondary question here. AI develops in many different fields. It could be helpful in terms of peace talks, right? In negotiations, it's used already as a tool, right? To speed up and provide more information here. So, in what terms then do you feel like is innovation and got to be tamed or sort of delimited by regulation, right? Because you're pushing the uphill battle of regulation, right? So innovation is plenty here.
I'm going to answer that with another question. Do you really want to promote unsafe?
You said promote unsafe innovation, or?
Yes. If you don't have guardrails, if you don't have what is not correct, what is safe and what is unsafe, then it is unsafe for innovation. So no one wants to hinder innovation, and that's the corporate discourse. What we want to do is foster responsible and safe innovation. And the only way you can do that is by establishing guardrails and by having norms that delimit what the technology can do and what it cannot do, and who is accountable and who is not.
Excellent.
So maybe one final question. I want to ask. I know that with your organization, your company, and other aspects, you're trying to find a way to harness artificial intelligence for peace and security. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
So, and again, this is about harnessing AI equally for everyone. So, conflict arises when there are no elements for sustainable. You cannot have peace if you don't have development. So when you address the root causes of conflict in general by development, by giving people opportunities, by solving people's immediate problems. So, you know, but you know, with ownership, with agency, not by the similar dynamics of the past and handouts and colonial reminiscence and this type of things. When you empower societies to find their own solutions, and then they can actually solve, you know, everything from water, electricity, food, these very basic things, then people can start moving forward. And then there's less need, you know, because they're of conflict, because people are more like in an equal level playing field. So there's less room for taking advantage or for, say, vulnerabilities to arise. But there's also less incentives because you have your situations solved. So this is talking like at the micro level. So this is about resilience. So when you build your own technological resilience as communities, you are stronger. And then when you kind of like expand that resilience into the global south, for example, then you can create a barrier to protect yourself from everything that is happening. So that's why development and peace have always been completely linked. And innovation is a very powerful tool if we have the information correctly, especially since everything is interconnected nowadays. So this is what I was saying before. So you can add up and you can make a difference in a different way than it was possible before, thanks to technology, if you're using it in the right way, in the responsible way, in a safe way. So that's basically what we're doing within the foundation, and we have a platform, and that this is the point of it, to interconnect and to create awareness and ownership, agency, and empowerment.
All right. I think that with that concluding thought, I'm gonna say a few words in Spanish. Jimena, quiero darte las gracias, agradecerte por habernos acompañado el día de hoy. I said, Jimena, thank you for having been with us today. This is a very insightful conversation, and I think we all have a lot. We'll have a lot to reflect after this conversation. So on behalf of Riggs, on behalf of Montclair State University, we want to thank you for being here with us, and I want to thank all participants who attended the event.
Muchas gracias a ti, and thank you very much to everyone. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Thank you, and keep up the great work. It's important.
Likewise, likewise.
Yes.
Likewise. Likewise.
Éxito.
Muchas gracias.
All right.
Likewise.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.